This is the journey from building my very first map to getting a track of the day. At the end of the video, I'll share how I got accepted into one of the greatest mapping teams in TrackMania history. Spoiler alert, it is exotic. So let's jump in and start with my very first map. I'll be using this TrackMania Exchange plugin to jump between each map. So this is the very first time I ever stepped into the map editor and made a map. And as part of this video, we're just going to be roasting all of my old maps. So let's go ahead and just start by watching the world record here. Um, so right away, we have this outside dirt turn, gearing up through the turn, which is an absolutely awful start. Confusing jump here. I'll show that in Cam 7 in a second, why that part's confusing. Then we have this massive airtime, awkward landing onto the wall, way too much speed for this drift here, and then just a completely blind jump straight to the finish. So let's go into Cam 7 and take a look at this beauty from above. So we have some awkward scenery. So basically the idea with this map was, hey, maybe you were making a little track and you got too much speed, so you jump off the track and then kind of do some other wonky route. But the biggest problem with this is that a lot of players saw this track and were like, oh, where do I go? Do I go on this booster, the top booster, or take the turn here? So lots of problems with this track, very basic scenery, but kind of learned a valuable lesson, which is you want to make sure it's clear where your route is going. And not kind of have these indecisive patterns, because they might seem cool in your head, but in this case it didn't really work out in practice. So let's go ahead and jump to the next map. So the second map I ever made, and we have 16 maps to go through, if you're counting. So this is going to be some real beauties. Let's check out the world record here. So this is kind of where I took Carl Berg's advice and went for something that was a mini, like a 19-second map. Let's do, we have some decent transitions here. Just a massive amount of pink trees. I don't know why I thought we needed so many. And then we kind of have this weird risky finish. So really not too bad of a map. But really I think the main issue with this one was just having lots of trees, and then you can also see we're just using the basic colors, so we're not, to the map. And I think these signs change, or maybe the white was added later. But yeah, let's go in Cam 7 and just look at this from above. So pretty decent mini, like looking back on it. It's just I don't know why we need so many pink trees. So let's go ahead and go to the next map. And one of the goals here is to show that, so I'm a silver ranked player, and I just want to show like how you can go from like, just starting off, getting mapping, learning a lot along the way, and then taking that journey to actually getting a track of the day. I think anyone who puts in the time and effort to learn mapping can get to that point. So at the time there were a lot of like full speed grass track of the days. So that's what I wanted to build here, and this is where I first got started into building some custom items. And so we actually, like, that turn was maybe something that I built in using the mesh modeler. We have a cam changes here, which I know I screwed up the exit to the cam change at first, but I think the texture for that might have been a little different. This part is slightly blind, but not too bad. The scenery here, so there's no scenery outside this turn, but a pretty cool turn. So I think overall just has some very basic scenery, and you'll see this scenery style like with a lot of, like, if you're beginning at mapping, a lot of beginners just take these scenery blocks, and it's like that's going to be the scenery for your track. But okay, so yeah, this scenery is not great, but we'll see how like my skills building with vanilla scenery has evolved throughout the video. So let's go ahead and play the next map. This map, actually, let's show it in Cam 7 first. So this map, pretty colorful, much more focused on like trying to learn transitions. And then we have some ice here and kind of an interesting magnet finish. So let's go and watch the world record. So a little confusing here where to jump to, but we're jumping to this checkpoint. And then here's a pretty classic transition. Um, and then just kind of a blind landing onto sausage. Water bounce straight into plastic, which is, always fun on a mixed map. A lot of players don't like the wet plastic. So yeah, this is really a mixed map. And then we have, okay, the engine off into the uphill at the end and go to the next map. This one, I spent a lot of time on the scenery. Like, I spent a lot of time placing blocks, and a lot of the scenery, and I also learned some media tracker here. A lot of the scenery is not actually visible from the route, which we'll show. It's kind of a major problem. So let's go ahead and show the world record. So you can cut through there. I thought it wouldn't be faster, which is why I had edited that start. This one is an auto slide map. So the idea is that all the drifts on the map would be auto slides. And this part I think is fairly creative, having those some custom plastic pieces there. This can be a little weird to drive. But yeah, having that plastic was kind of cool to start the drifts. I think that concept could be still really good in another map. This is dirt, just colored like snow. And then we just have like a simple plastic finish here. So after watching that, so originally when I built this start, I had added these here because I was thinking you would go through the middle and then turn left to have the gears work better. But it's just too easy to like drive through this other side, which is a little faster. Then the GPS is hidden off to the side. So if we just zoom out, like all of this scenery here, you just can't see it from the route. And I spent a lot of time like building and placing things on it. All this scenery you can't see. So there's really no point in building scenery that you can't see from the route. So this all like a sloping hill, like this, you just can't see it. This one was, I was at learning mapping, and I was basing off a plastic tech map, but trying to make it look like a campaign map. So I used the color scheme from one of the campaigns, which was using green plastic for it. So kind of a precision start. And I think the big thing I learned from this is that like campaign maps have a certain style of scenery, and it's great for the campaign, but it's really not popular for track of the day style maps. So if you played in a lot of track of the days, you have a little engine off there, which is fun. If you played track of the days, you'll know that they look very different from campaign maps. Like usually they have, like you're on the moon or you're in the desert or you have some kind of custom environment. And you can see there the world record doesn't use the plastic bounce at the end, which if I go to Cam 7, the idea was that you would jump. Oh, I'm under the track. You would jump off of here, hit the plastic on the wall, but you don't actually need to. If you have the jump right, you can jump straight to the finish. So that little bonk is kind of like not enforced as part of the route. But got a little better with the custom scenery here. It's still fairly basic. But yeah, it really just looks like a campaign map, and that's probably not going to impress anybody. So let's go to the next map. And even the newer campaign maps now look far better than that one. So let's see what else we can roast. All right, so the next one, Lake Superior. So I was like, okay, I learned some Blender, which is back when I made some tutorials about how to make this mountain scenery. And so this is kind of one of the first maps where I was like, it doesn't look like TrackMania. And I think that meme of like, is this even TrackMania, is really interesting, and kind of like you want to embrace that for track of the day maps, where you're actually going out, using custom items, finding something that really doesn't look vanilla, but you might be totally set in a different world. One of the big problems with this map is these are all real water blocks, so I didn't use the fake water because the real water actually looks a lot nicer with the rendering, but because of having a massive amount of water, and this water you can't even see from the route, that can add a lot of FPS issues for players. And then the other issue is these houses have a lot of lights and shadows, as well as like this massive amount of houses. So it looks kind of cool in the distance from the map. Usually if you have scenery that's further away, you want to use larger items and not like a massive amount of small items, because that's going to have a lot more edges and shadows. And when you suddenly have all of that in your field of view, it's going to be hard to see. So let's go ahead and watch the world record. I know these players had a lot of fun like grinding and racing on this map. And so part of the idea was that if you have like some kind of way to land on the route, maybe I could have made this multi-lap. But this is a NASCAR track, and I think there's one drift in it, which we'll see. But NASCAR was really fun to make. It's not a very popular style for players to play, but I also really like this this bridge. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, there we have yeah, here, okay, here is the drift. That turn can be a drift, I think. So yeah, essentially just a NASCAR map. The route I think I made in like 5 minutes. It ended up being pretty fun to drive. Let's jump to the next map. Okay, sweet. So this map is called Sunshine, and I had built some custom items for this as well. And I have another channel, another video on my YouTube channel about how I built those custom items. But this start is very unique, which I was really excited. I still really like this. It's just with the mini booster. So let's go ahead and show the route. I did some free blocking here. And then we have this jump into a drift, I guess. This scenery is not great. It's kind of hard to know where to go. That's probably one of the main problems with this map. This you can also get a slowdown on the grass if you don't, depending on how your car lands, which isn't ideal. I got some nice feedback about this turn. It's pretty fun to have this like risky turn at the end. And then this finish is actually kind of interesting. I think it's not like your typical finish that you would see with like, I guess, a better map. Okay, let's see what's next. We have stealth mission. So this was like probably the first map where I was like, let's really get good with vanilla scenery, or like try, and maybe it's not perfect, but like let's try and make something that looks really cool with vanilla scenery. And this is actually a mini RPG. So it's one of the main criticisms. So it's 31 seconds. So it's kind of like a mini RPG. We have the numbered checkpoints. And then we have this interesting turnaround where you can grab the checkpoint and just jump down to the dirt on the side here. And then we're jumping across the track. And basically the idea with this track is like, what if you had a dirt road and you were driving on the scenery around it? So I kind of put this road down. But the finish is not very exciting. It's like, it's a 31-second RPG map, but the last 10 seconds you're just driving on a dirt road with some nice scenery. So I think there definitely could have been some, after this dirt road, like maybe here, like go back and do some more RPG elements before the finish. But overall, I think this color scheme, sunrise with the blue and the green and then the turquoise lighting, I think it looks pretty nice. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of how the scenery turned out. So let's check and see what's next. But yeah, the map is just, it's a mini RPG, but half the map is just a dirt road. So maybe that'd be even a fun one to go back and finish and add maybe 10 or 15 more seconds to it. So Monticello, this one I really tried to build a lot. So I built a full grass tech map and tried to build a lot of vanilla scenery on it. So let's go ahead and watch it. I drove the route a lot. It was fun at first. I kind of got bored of driving it. I think it's fairly easy. This part was a little confusing, I think, for players because you were changing what you were landing on so quickly, like the different surfaces. It's like, what am I even driving on? Um, then we have a basic drift here, jumping over the engine off. Um, another drift, so I think it's a decent route. I think the scenery is okay, but yeah, really, I just got bored of playing it, and it's nothing like super unique. But we have a nice finish here, where you kind of like yeet off of um, the road. So really, the part I was talking about is right here. You go from grass to this black surface, glass to this wooden bridge, and this just happens so quickly that it's kind of hard for players to process that. The other thing, so this map has a massive amount of vanilla scenery, so it would have been nice to get something a little more lightweight. But I like the finish here too, where you're basically just yeeting off of this wooden platform. Faribault. So Faribault, if you've been subscribed to my channel, you've probably seen a few videos from it. This is a speed tech map, very high skill ceiling, really fun map. Um, these world records are absolutely insane by some top tier players. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch it. Um, so this one, like the scenery is fairly basic, but I was kind of going for that like competitive speed tech vibe. I think if the scenery was a little crazier, that could be good. But I do really like how this turned out, where it's kind of just that pure speed tech feeling, um, with some basic vanilla scenery. That turn was supposed to be a drift when I drove it, but I guess you didn't need to. And that's something that can be common with speed tech maps, is having turns where you might think it's a drift, but then better players find ways to take it without drifting that's actually faster. Um, so let's go ahead. But overall, I think it turned out great, and there's plenty of turns that you do need to drift. Actually, one of the main feedbacks that we got on this map is it's a lot of like similar turns in a row. So like when you start off, you're turning like left, 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 and then you turn right a bunch of times, and then you turn left a bunch of times. When you drive it, it doesn't quite feel like that as much, but when you're initially learning the map, it feels like a lot of the same turns in a row. And one of the reasons I built that is because I wanted it to be a fairly compact route, whereas like going over itself and having this same like road above itself. So I think if you were gonna, because if you go left, right, you're gonna end up with a snake across the map. So that's kind of why it ended up being like that, but definitely something to keep in mind. All right, so this is it, Ghostly Boardwalk. So this is my first map, and actually only map that's gotten track of the day. One of the things I learned with Gear 5 speed tech maps is if you're a bad player, like maybe ranked silver, but you build a Gear 5 map, then like experienced players are not going to have gear issues with your map, as long as you plan out how to get to Gear 5. Um, then once they get there, they're going to be good. So let's go ahead and watch the world record here. So you can see what we're gearing up here, using downhills at the start to make it quick to gear up. Kind of planning out where the gear ups will happen, and then the last one's here. So then you're just staying in Gear 5 for the rest of the map. One of the cool things about this map is that all of the respawns, there's these, I guess I'll show one, but there's these ghosts and boosters at the respawns location. So you'll see one on the left right here. So if you double respawn, it just puts you on a booster to the side of the track, which really helped in map review where players were trying to learn the map, because wherever they might mess up or need to double respawn, they can do that. So yeah, what I'm talking about is basically if you double respawn at a checkpoint, then the very first one doesn't have it, but all the rest of them do. You'll be put on this booster and have a little ghost here, and then you'll just be on your way. So they're not, because of how the track is built, it's not used a ton. The main criticism for this map is that it's super dark, and it probably could use more lighting in like certain corners, but it was meant to be like you're driving through spooky forests at night. but that can be hard because not every player has nice. Their monitor settings might look darker than what your monitor would look like. The other issue that was almost a problem is a reroute. So fortunately, it was not faster, but basically like jumping off here and trying to take the map a different way. So we just had enough checkpoints that wasn't an issue. So that was it. So I got track of the day with this. I think really what helped a lot was having that custom environment of like the route's fun enough, and the route's really fun, especially on your first playthrough. And then having this environment, this spooky feeling, is just unique. So after that, cup of the day, obviously I'm gonna keep mapping because really it's more about the joy of mapping rather than a specific goal. And this is essentially like a lull map or practically a shitfest map that I made where I built over 30 custom items for it to have this really unique driving experience where some of these boosters throw you up into the air, but then you have super reactor and then you have slow-mos on the top, so you can't just fly through the map. So let's go play a few of these top times. So depending on which booster you hit, you're gonna fly through the air. So this map is really fun to play, and it's a great visual as well. So it's kind of like, do your inputs even change the outcome of the map? I don't know, but it's extremely fun, and the visuals look cool too. All right, so this map was made for the North America Cup. It was designed for 50 laps. And this was a top-down design, meaning I was like, I want to build a volcano map where you're under the volcano, and then you go out of the volcano and then back under it. And basically want to see, we'll play the first lap here. So yeah, it's like a 25-minute author time. But yeah, essentially you're driving through a volcano. We have a custom magnet there. Item that I made, and then you do this little turnover, and then a NASCAR turn, which I think it can be pretty fun, and then this nice dirt turn. There could be a little more scenery there, and then you're back under the volcano. So I really enjoyed this one. And then this is kind of a risky part where you can actually jump over that lava if you have enough speed. So, like right here, if you're going with a bunch of speed, you can jump right to that part of the road. And of course, the lava, you're just gonna fall through to the grass. The next map is USA RPG. So I was asked to make a map for the USA campaign. So we got all the best mappers in the US to make maps for it. And I was like, I've been enjoying RPGs. I want to make just maybe like a beginner level RPG map with like 50 different checkpoints. And so we won't show this whole thing, but we had some really good players on this. Orel is a TMGL player, so really cool to have a map you built played by such great players outside of Track of the Day. But yeah, it's basically a beginner level RPG map. And we'll go ahead and show this. So this one, I wish I had more time to do the scenery for it, but it ended up having a fairly simple vibe, and yeah, if you like RPG maps, I think it turned out pretty great. The main criticism here, though, is when this checkpoint, you're supposed to bug slide off of the blue and do a 360 and land on the red, but you don't actually need to do the 360. It's kind of faster not to. So that was a bit of a bummer, but it still ends up being really cool. Now we get to our story about the mapping team. Exotic posted this. They said, do you want to join the mapping family? Build a track that emphasizes one color of your choice and just make it a great track. Make it fun to hunt. And I knew that Exotic had some of the greatest mappers as part of this mapping team, people that I wanted to collaborate with and work with on future maps and really learn from and have those people you can bounce ideas off of. They even have some TMGL mappers in it. So I wanted to work hard on a map for it and try and make something great and join the team. So I picked the color pink, and the reason I picked pink is because I wanted a color that was not built into the game that I would have to make a lot of custom items for to make a really unique vibe, but still use that vanilla scenery mapping style. So here's the intro. The map I made is called Nadeshiko. I put the exotic logo in there too. I used a pink skin to drive the GPS. We have this nice bounce off the finish here. So this is the map. Have a nice media tracker effect as well. So this is kind of really, really proud of how far I've come in terms of like comparing this map to the very first map that I made. We'll show the GPS here as well. So the main criticism, or maybe my personal criticism for this map, which is something I don't do a lot, is when the scenery, like you'll see you're actually driving on pink concrete. When you are driving on the same color that is the scenery, like here you're driving on pink as well. I really want to do that because it was fun for the vibe of this map, emphasizing the pink color. But it does make it a little hard for drivers because it's harder to distinguish what's the road and what's the scenery. But overall, I really like how this map turned out. The other thing is this drift you actually have to release if you're going too fast. Show where that is again. So if you're a good player and you have too much speed, you actually have to release at this one, at this turn, in order to make the jump. And I actually put this little duck here to block. You could jump straight from here to the finish. So this duck prevents that and then forces the risky to bounce off the wall. So I wanted to make sure I didn't make the same mistake that I did in that earlier campaign map, which is just forcing players to bounce off the wall here. So with that, we got some great feedback from Exotic saying how great of a speed tech map it was. And the final results were essentially Exotic brought in 5 new members to the team. That's my mapping journey.